Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to look at the field calibration process for our friend the dial caliper, or slide caliper as Starrett likes to call it. This one's obviously in inches. You can tell because you've got 100 graduations there. And then I'll come a little closer here. You got the 1 inch marking with each inch divided into 10 below that. Now, the first thing they want you to do for a field check or a field calibration is to clean your surfaces. So all your measuring contact surfaces, just basically make sure you don't have any dust or grit on the unit. Then they want you to close it, slide it closed to make sure it feels good. You don't feel any grit or junk underneath the dial. They would like you to loosen the bezel lock, this knob down here, so that you can rotate the bezel as you would need. In this particular case, I'm going to set it to a 0, and I'm going to leave it there. After you have field checked that aspect of it, the next thing you need to do is you need to get yourself one of these. This is a gauge block. It's just a piece of metal, and I can tell you for a fact that from this edge to this edge here is exactly 1 inch. I mean, like down to the millionth. So what they would like you to do is they would like you to take this and they would like you to check here, here, and here, and make sure that this thing is reading accurate to within half of a graduation. So in other words, the dial here can only be off by as much as a half of 1/1000th of an inch. If that's all you, if you've got that amount or less, then you can obviously move on to the next step. You know that the surfaces in here, these two surfaces, are still flat and relatively even. Next thing they want you to do is they want you to check linearity, which is basically making sure that the gear mechanism in here is still reading correctly when you move it to a bunch of different sizes. So you can close it down here on this 1 inch gauge block like this, and it reads 1.0. Then you can take, well, I happen to have a 2 inch gauge block here, so I can take it and it's right on 2.0. And then what they wanted you to do was get a 6 inch gauge block and crank it all the way out and get it to 6.0. Again, all within 1/2 of a graduation, all reading as accurately as possible. Next thing they want you to do is they want you to check these two jaws in here, the inside jaws. To use the inside jaws, what they want you to do is they want you to take a micrometer and they want you to set it to 750 thousandths of an inch. This is the calibrated micrometer, so this is the really, really accurate micrometer that they put inside the control chart or control chest with all the other calibration equipment. We shouldn't use this for anything other than this inspection process. Okay, so once I'm at 750.750, they want me to set that down, and they would like me to bring those jaws in here and make sure that I'm reading 750, which I am. Now, this is not necessarily what I would call an industry check, right? Most people in industry, if they're checking this, they're going to have something that's fixed at a specific size and not adjustable, because the adjustability can mess with your sizing. Okay, our method here that we like to use is we like to use this guy here, the ring gauge. This is 1.00001 of an inch, so 10 millionths of an inch accurate. So in other words, if I bring this caliper in here and measure the inside size, it should be 1 inch on the exactly, because I'm measuring the inside of that hole. This is the way that we would probably ask you guys to do it. This is the way that they're going to do on the function check, because they have this gear available in the testing in the Starrett kit. Finally, we got to check the depth rod, and we have to check the step measures. The depth rod is this little guy right here, and we need to make sure that that's measuring accurate. So what they would ask you to do is take a gauge block, and put it. Obviously, I'm gonna have to move the camera to demonstrate this, but they want you to more or less bring the depth rod down to a surface. To touch something at the same time as the gauge block. Okay? By doing that, we can establish if the depth rod has been dented or damaged in any way. Okay? They would also like you to do a step check, which is where you use the back of the caliper and you do the same thing where you've got the gauge block here sitting on the surface plate, and you're checking that to make sure that it is also reading accurate to an inch. Now, this process is this was just designed to be a quick overview, a visual reference for what we were talking about yesterday and what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Now, this process is identical for any 6-inch dial caliper if you're using the metric equivalent. So if you're using this guy right here, the metric version. Now I can tell this is a metric caliper because my grads are different. Obviously I can see my 10 millimeter mark right there, and then my dial here is actually split into two halves. I've got 0 to 100 and then 0 to 100, so basically requires me to measure a little bit differently. However, they want you to do the same process here, but they're going to give you, so you can see here, this is a metric gauge block. So they want you to crank this out and they want you to check it and make sure it's reading exactly 25 millimeters instead of 1 inch. So that's basically what I'm here to show you. If you have questions, certainly pop me or Mr. Bartz an email, and hopefully this will try to clarify at least a little bit what we were asking you guys to do in this calibration, this field calibration exercise. Everybody stay safe, and yeah, hopefully we'll see you soon.